Mike, tomorrow you're going to take Faith out to play, right? You remember the promise, don't you? About how you'd be taking her to her favorite park for the day?
Huh? Of course I remember. You don't need to keep asking me. It's fine, really.
You say that, but you always forget, don't you? How many times have you canceled plans with Faith at the last minute before again?
I don't think it's been that many times. I'm sure I've kept most of the promises I made.
What are you talking about? You've actually kept fewer promises than you've broken. You're always saying that you'll take her out, but then something comes up and it falls through. I'm telling you, you really need to spend more time with Faith. She's always asking for you, and you hardly ever follow through. It's really sad how little attention she gets from you.
I do spend time with her. We go to the park together on my days off. I'm not ignoring her, you know. Jeez, can't you just let a man be for once instead of nagging them to death?
You just take her there and leave her to play by herself, though. That's not really spending time with her at all, actually. You just sit there and she has to entertain herself like always. That's not playing with her, Mike. You need to actually get involved. Faith often says she's upset because you don't play with her, and it breaks my heart to hear that. She's been waiting for you to play with her, and you just leave her alone. Don't you see that?
No, I really don't think that's what happens. I'm sure she has a good time, even when I'm not actively playing with her.
I heard from her that you just sit there looking at your phone while she plays alone. Honestly, I'm getting tired of hearing this. You probably don't even realize how much she needs you to engage with her. You're probably just playing your games again, right? That's why she's been feeling so neglected. Tomorrow, when she's looking forward to spending time with you, make sure to actually play with her this time, okay? You've got to stop letting her down.
I already play with her, I do, but Faith is always asking for more. I can't be at her beck and call all the time. She's the one who's being too demanding.
If you were really spending enough time with her, she wouldn't feel the way she does. She wouldn't be saying all that. She just wants to be with you, to feel like you're really there with her. She's not being selfish. She's just asking for your attention. It's not a lot to ask, is it? You really need to stop blaming her and start looking at yourself. I don't think you realize how much she craves your affection. She needs her father, Mike, not just someone who's physically present, but not really there emotionally.
Oh, please, I'm not the one who's at fault here. You're just spoiling her too much, that's all. You're the one who always gives in to whatever she wants, and now she's just acting out because of it. I don't think I'm the one who's really making her this way.
Oh, come on. You're the one who's spoiled, not Faith. You were the youngest son in your family, always pampered and treated like the special one, so I'm not surprised that you're so selfish. You think everything revolves around you and you never want to admit that you have any flaws. Maybe you should take a good look at yourself before blaming anyone else.
You've got to be kidding me! You're always so critical, always pointing out my flaws. It's getting really old, you know. You always have something to complain about, but you don't see your own issues. It's like you don't even care about how much you nag. It's exhausting.
Faith is an only child, Mike. She doesn't have anyone else to play with on her own. Her parents should be the ones to spend time with her, especially on her days off. She's been waiting for tomorrow, all excited about you taking her out, and you can't just cancel on her like you usually do. Do you understand how disappointed she'll be? She's looking forward to it so much. You need to follow through for her sake. Don't break her heart again.
I said I get it. Can you stop nagging now? I understand, okay? I'll make sure to spend time with her, but you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over.
If you were a good father to begin with, I wouldn't have to say anything at all. But you're always all talk, making promises and never keeping them. You act like you're this great dad, but you never actually do anything. I'm not asking for perfection, but I do expect you to be involved, to take some responsibility, and I'm not seeing that from you, Mike. You just sit there criticizing me, but when it comes to doing something yourself, you're never there.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means that you talk a big game about being a father, but you don't back it up with actions. You always have something to say about my parenting, but you don't even help. You don't play with the kids. You don't take responsibility for anything. It's like you think being a dad means just being there sometimes, but you have to actually do things too. You're neglecting your role and it's affecting Faith. She's craving your attention, but you're too busy doing other things.
I can play with her, I'm telling you. It's just that you're always on my case and I can't take it anymore. I'm doing my best here and it's frustrating to hear you criticize me all the time. If I try to do anything, you say it's not good enough. It's always something with you.
You say that, but I don't see any real effort from you. It's just words, Mike. You've been neglecting Faith and you can't even see it. Maybe it's time for you to stop making excuses and start acting like the father you're supposed to be. Mike, what are you doing? Answer the phone. I've been calling you non-stop since earlier.
Huh? What is this number of missed calls? What's with all these missed calls? I'm in the middle of playing with Faith and it's really bothering me. You told me to take her out, so don't interrupt us.
Don't mess around. The one you're playing with isn't even our daughter.
What?
Get out of the hotel. I know everything.
Hotel? What are you talking about?
You're there, aren't you?
Are you sleep-talking or something? There's no way I'm at a hotel. Faith is with me, too.
What are you saying? Don't try to make me laugh, you liar.
What's with all the nonsense you've been saying? The hotel? I don't understand what you're talking about at all.
The one who doesn't understand is you. I heard about it from Faith and I was horrified.
Huh? What do you mean you heard it from Faith? Faith is here with me. She's been with me the whole time today, playing together.
That's impossible. Faith is with me right now, at the hospital.
The hospital?
Faith was taken by ambulance and I got the call. Of course you didn't notice anything was wrong with our daughter, did you? You were at the hotel the whole time, right?
Wait a minute, why is Faith at the hospital?
She was found collapsed in the street. It was heat stroke, apparently.
Heat stroke?
You left Faith in the car, didn't you? In this sweltering heat? What were you thinking, leaving her like that?
I made sure to leave the windows open.
Are you stupid? Opening the windows doesn't make any significant difference in the car's internal temperature. Faith couldn't stand it and tried to escape from the window on her own. It's a good thing she's a smart kid.
She managed to get out through that gap?
She's thin, so she got out okay, but if she hadn't been able to get out? Someone passing by called an ambulance and she was rushed to the nearest hospital for treatment.
So she's okay?
By the time I got to the hospital, she had regained consciousness. She's able to talk now.
I see. That's a relief, but still, how did they contact you?
Faith has all kinds of allergies from birth, right? Whenever we go out, I make sure to give her a contact book.
A contact book from her kindergarten?
Not the kindergarten one, I made a separate one. I guess you never noticed it all this time.
I didn't know anything about that.
I've talked about it several times before, though. You just weren't paying attention. It contains a list of things she's allergic to and emergency contacts. It's for when something happens, so she can get the right treatment immediately.
You're really thorough. You're kind of overly nervous, though.
But thanks to that, I was contacted. That cautiousness paid off.
Anyway, Faith is fine, right?
She's fine, but she's been saying something weird.
Something weird?
She pointed out the window and said, "Daddy went into that castle over there." You understand, right? There's a big hotel shaped like a castle on the outskirts of town. And of course, it's not a normal hotel, is it? I can even see it from her hospital room. That's how I knew you were at that hotel. There's only one reason someone would go there, right? You're with some woman now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. But even so, you don't have the right to yell at me about it.
You have some nerve acting all big and tough when you're the one who cheated. I haven't even heard an apology from you yet.
The reason I cheated was because there were issues at home. My wife lost her charm, and Faith is spoiled and selfish. Of course I ended up looking elsewhere.
What is that? Are you blaming us now? Are you saying that your cheating is our fault?
When a husband cheats, it's usually because the wife doesn't do enough to keep him at home. If you don't put in any effort to keep your husband happy, this is what happens.
I'm angry about the affair, but more than that, I am furious about what you did to Faith. Do you realize that Faith could have lost her life because of you? Do you understand that? You are an awful father.
In the end, she's okay, isn't she? So what's the big deal?
That doesn't mean you get a free pass. Did you think buying a bunch of snacks for Faith would make up for it?
Faith agreed to stay in the car. It's not like I forced her.
Faith told me she was scared of you and couldn't say no. She said you told her to stay in the car and threatened her not to tell me.
I didn't threaten her. Again, Faith is lying. She's just like you, a troublesome woman.
To blame Faith after you made her suffer? What kind of person are you?
She's recovered, so just go home quickly. It's a waste of money for her to stay in the hospital.
You're not going to visit the hospital?
What's the point? I'm not going to pick her up. You two can go home by yourselves.
I'm so glad it's a holiday today. It was a last-minute call, but everyone's going to come over. Are you planning to just ignore the messages? Well, whatever. The sisters are heading to the hospital where you are now, so... All right. See you soon.
What? My sisters are coming here?
Oh, you replied pretty quickly. Looks like my plan worked perfectly, huh?
Are you seriously telling me my sisters are coming here?
Yep, that's right. All 4 of your sisters are on their way. It's been a while since you've seen them, hasn't it? You usually avoid meeting up with them, don't you? Are you that uncomfortable around them?
Did you contact my sisters to tell them to come?
Who else would I contact? I've made sure to tell them all about what happened today.
What the hell are you doing, airing our family's delicate issues to the outside world? You never even contact them, so why today of all days?
Huh? What do you expect me to do? You're hopeless and useless, and all you ever do is get defensive and refuse to take any responsibility. So I decided to let your sisters handle this.
You've gotta be kidding me.
Your sisters are all furious with you. And can you blame them? You cheated, put our daughter's life in danger, and then tried to make it our fault. Your sisters are not going to let you get away with this.
Why, of all people, did you contact my sisters?
I figured your parents would be too weak for this. You're the youngest of 5 siblings, and you've never won a fight with your sisters, have you? You were always pampered by your parents because you're the youngest son, but your sisters? They're terrifying.
Those sisters of mine are monsters! You have no idea how scary they are!
Well, those scary sisters of yours are actually coming together to handle this for you. This is really helping me out. The one who lives closest to you is probably already on her way here. Can't wait to see what happens.
Already? This is seriously bad!
You should have just come to the hospital already. It's your own fault for digging yourself into this hole.
Call my sisters and tell them to go back right now.
It's too late for that. They're already on their way. If you had any time to complain, you should have run away by now. You might even get caught with your little affair partner too, you know? Good job today. I was able to watch the entire scene when you got scolded by your sisters during the video call. The woman you were having an affair with was crying uncontrollably. Honestly, it was hard to even watch because it was so intense.
I'm so sorry for what I did. I truly regret it.
Looks like your sisters really made you apologize. It's good to see you finally admit what you did. It's about time you said something. I had almost given up on hearing an apology from you.
I know I'm a terrible father. I don't deserve any sympathy. Please, I'm truly sorry for everything that's happened.
It was actually kind of funny watching you kneel outside the hotel, doing that whole act of submission. It looked so pitiful. On top of all that, Faith is going to be admitted to the hospital today, so I might go over there to check on her. I don't want to just leave everything to your sisters, as much as I trust them to handle things.
Enough already! I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just want to go home. Can we please just end it? You've made your point, haven't you?
It seems like you've really given up now. Just a little while ago, you were acting so proud and strong, like nothing could faze you. Now look at you. It's almost pathetic how quickly you've broken down.
You don't understand anything, do you? It's easy for you to sit there and talk like that. You have no idea what kind of pressure I'm under right now. You don't know the half of it.
Well, that's because you really don't know how bad your situation is. Your sisters didn't just scold you, you know. They made sure to interrogate your mistress as well. I have to say, they did a thorough job, and now I know all of her personal details. Her name, address, phone number, even where she works. I know it all now.
Oh, really? So what else did you find out about her?
She works at the same company as you, believe it or not.
Wait, really? She works at the same place?
Yes, and guess what else? She's married too.
What? She's married?
Yeah, apparently you two were planning to leave your spouses and be together.
No, that's not how it was. She wasn't gonna leave her husband for me. This was just a fling, a momentary lapse in judgment. It wasn't meant to be anything serious, I swear.
Come on, you're kidding yourself. This wasn't just a casual fling. If it had been, you wouldn't have been sneaking around like this. And now you're trying to cover it up by lying again. Well, your mistress's husband wasn't so naive.
Wait, what? You talked to him?
Yeah, I called him. I got his number from your mistress.
Why would you call her husband? Are you trying to make things worse?
Well, I had to explain the situation, didn't I? I told him everything. Of course, he was furious. He's planning on suing you for alimony.
What? Alimony? No, that can't be right. I don't have money for something like that. You can't be serious.
Alimony isn't something to joke about, you know. You're going to be hit with a massive financial burden. And considering how you just bought that car, I'm guessing you're not exactly rolling in cash right now.
I'm telling you, I don't have the money. I just made a big purchase. You don't understand how tough things are right now.
Well, I'm not going to be the one who has to pay it. That's not my problem. Plus, I'm divorcing you, so I'll be in the clear. But I'm still going to sue you and your mistress for alimony. You'll be paying for this one way or another.
Wait, double alimony? Seriously? That's gonna ruin me!
Well, maybe you and your mistress should figure out how to split the bill together. After all, you're both responsible for this mess.
I told you she's not gonna marry me! She's not serious about anything!
Well, you're on your own then. Just don't come crying to me for help. By the way, don't even think about asking your family for assistance. Your sisters have already told your parents not to get involved and to let you handle this yourself.
You've gotta be kidding me! Are your sisters hoping I'll go bankrupt?
They said they want you to learn your lesson the hard way. They're not going to let you get away with this without facing real consequences. I have to say I respect them for not giving you any breaks, even though you're family.
They really are ruthless, aren't they?
Your sisters aren't about to coddle you. They want to make sure you never make the same mistake again. They don't care if it's going to hurt you. They're determined to make you suffer for what you've done.
Okay, I'll pay the alimony. Just please don't make this worse than it already is. Especially if this gets out to my workplace. I can't afford for that to happen.
You are really worried about your job image, huh? Well, I can understand that. If your affair gets out, you'll be in for some serious trouble. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
I've worked so hard to maintain a professional reputation at work. My bosses like the image I've built for myself. If this scandal gets out, I won't be able to show my face at work again. My career will be over.
Your reputation? You think you can hide behind that? It's all a joke. You're just fooling yourself. You should see how you really act when no one's watching.
I'm not fooling myself. Everyone at work has to put on a good front. It's just how things are in the professional world. If this gets exposed, I won't be able to go back to my office. I'll be completely humiliated.
Well, I guess you'll just have to live with that humiliation. You'll have to deal with the shame and guilt every day. That's what you get for making such foolish decisions.
I should have just taken Faith to the park today. Why couldn't I just have been patient? Why couldn't I have made better choices?
Just now, Faith asked me, "Is Daddy a prince?" She thought you were some kind of hero. I couldn't help but laugh.
A prince? Me? How in the world?
She must have thought that because you were going into that hotel. She asked if you were off to save a princess. Isn't it hilarious? A guy who gets beaten up by a woman in front of a hotel can hardly be called a prince, right? After everything that had transpired, Mike ultimately found himself in a situation where there was no escape. The ramifications of his infidelity were far-reaching, and despite his initial hopes that things could simply be smoothed over, it became increasingly evident that such wishes were nothing more than a fantasy. The damage had already been done, and the consequences were unavoidable. He was forced to pay a substantial sum in alimony, a financial burden that would haunt him for years to come. It was the least of what he could do, considering the betrayal he had inflicted on both me and our daughter. At first, Mike had thought he could avoid the full impact of his actions, but reality hit him hard when he was faced with the legal and emotional consequences of his affair. Although the woman with whom Mike had been involved didn't immediately end her marriage, the consequences for her were just as severe. While she had managed to keep the facade of a happy marriage intact for a time, it became apparent that the affair couldn't stay hidden forever. Despite her husband's apparent willingness to stay, it seemed that she couldn't escape the ripple effects of her betrayal. The affair had left scars that were impossible to cover up, and eventually, those wounds began to bleed into every aspect of her life. Not only had she destroyed the trust in her marriage, but she also had to contend with the fallout of her actions at work. She chose to quit her job, leaving behind her career, possibly in an attempt to avoid the judgment and the consequences of the affair becoming public knowledge. Word had gotten out about her involvement with Mike, and it didn't take long for whispers to start circulating. Gossip spread like wildfire through the office, and her position there became untenable. She may have thought she could carry on with business as usual, but once the affair became public knowledge, it was impossible to ignore. She resigned under the pressure of the situation, likely hoping to escape the scrutiny that was building around her. The gossip in the workplace spread far and wide, and it did not take long for everyone to know what had been going on. It was as if the entire office was talking about her and the affair, discussing the affair in hushed tones, and wondering how she could have let things get so out of hand. The whispers weren't just about her actions, they also included details about her personal life and her relationship with Mike. The affair had become the subject of office gossip, and it was impossible for her to return to work as if nothing had happened. Her reputation at the company had been tarnished, and there was no way to repair the damage that had been done. She probably wished she could go back in time and undo everything, but the truth had already been exposed, and there was no going back. As for Mike, while he stayed at his job, it wasn't without difficulty. He was forced to endure a level of discomfort that he hadn't expected. Despite his best efforts to act as if everything was fine, it was clear to everyone around him that the affair had affected him deeply. The gossip and judgment from his colleagues were inescapable, and he soon realized that the facade he had tried to build had crumbled. He wasn't able to carry on as if nothing had happened. The judgment from others was something he couldn't ignore, no matter how much he tried. He found it difficult to focus on his work, constantly preoccupied with the rumors and whispers that followed him wherever he went. It wasn't just an issue of office gossip. It was the overwhelming sense that everyone knew what he had done. His colleagues, who had once respected him, now looked at him with a mixture of disappointment and judgment. Despite the strain of being in that environment, Mike chose to stay at his job. Perhaps he thought it would be easier to simply ride out the storm, to wait for the scandal to blow over. But as time passed, it became clear that nothing would ever be the same again. The affair had shattered not only our marriage, but also his sense of self. His image at work had been forever tainted by the betrayal. He couldn't escape the fact that he had hurt me, his family, and others who had trusted him. The guilt and shame of his actions weighed heavily on him, and it was becoming more and more difficult for him to function normally. Every day felt like a struggle, as he had to face the consequences of his decisions. The man he had once been, confident and respected, was now a shadow of his former self, constantly living under the cloud of his past mistakes. Meanwhile, my life had taken a different turn. While the pain and heartbreak of Mike's betrayal had initially overwhelmed me, I had slowly begun to rebuild my life. My daughter and I were learning to live without him. It was difficult at first. The emotional toll had been immense, and there were times when I wasn't sure how I would cope. But over time, I found the strength I needed to keep moving forward. I had to, for my daughter's sake and for my own. The world didn't stop just because of Mike's mistakes, and I had to find a way to navigate through the mess he had left behind. I couldn't afford to wallow in self-pity. I had to stay strong for her. With Mike's financial contributions, alimony, and child support, I was able to support my daughter. It wasn't an ideal situation, but it was enough to get us by. But what mattered more than the money was the realization that I didn't need Mike. I could take care of myself and my daughter without his help. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was empowering. I wasn't dependent on him anymore, and I was no longer beholden to his whims. I had my own life to lead, and I wasn't going to let him continue to control it. His actions had forced me to stand up for myself, and that was something I would never regret. It wasn't just Mike who paid for his mistakes. Thanks to my sisters-in-law, who had been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal, I was able to receive the alimony and child support I was owed. They had worked behind the scenes, taking action when I felt like I couldn't do anything. They fought for me when I was too emotionally drained to fight for myself. Their support made all the difference. Without them, I don't know how I would have made it through. They were the ones who made sure Mike followed through on his responsibilities, and they were the ones who helped me navigate the complicated legal process. I could never thank them enough for everything they did for me. The money I received wasn't something I planned to spend frivolously. I didn't want to live from paycheck to paycheck. Instead, I decided to save it for my daughter's future. I wanted to make sure she had the best possible opportunities when she got older, and I knew that education would play a huge role in that. The money Mike and I had once shared, the money he had stolen from our family's trust, would now be used to build a future for her. This money wasn't about getting back at him. It wasn't about revenge. It was about securing her future. My daughter deserved every opportunity I could provide her, and I wasn't going to let Mike's mistakes dictate the course of her life. My daughter, for her part, didn't fully understand what had happened. She was still so young, and the complexity of adult relationships was lost on her. She didn't yet comprehend why her father wasn't around, and she didn't understand the significance of the hotel where Mike had betrayed me. She was still innocent, and I wanted to protect that innocence for as long as I could. She was too young to know the depth of the betrayal that had occurred, but I knew that one day she would have questions. One day she would want to know why things were different, why her father wasn't a part of her life. And when that day came, I would have to tell her the truth. I would have to explain to her why Mike wasn't around, why he wasn't a part of our family anymore. And when she learned the truth, when she understood what he had done, she would know exactly who he was. She would join the many other women who had learned to despise him for his actions. Mike, for all his apologies, would never escape the consequences of his affair. He could say he was sorry 1,000 times, but it wouldn't change anything. The damage was done, and there was no going back. He had lost the trust of everyone who had once believed in him, and he had lost the respect of his daughter, too. No amount of money or apologies could fix what he had broken, and I, for my part, was finally learning to live without him. I had found my strength, and I wasn't going to let his mistakes define me. I was building a future for my daughter, one that didn't depend on Mike or his lies. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.